Hi, it's Wednesday. It's time for Business Analysis Live. I'm Susan Moore. I'm the Community Engagement Manager here at IIBA.
And I'm Scott Bennett. I'm a manager of business analysis here at the International Institute of Business Analysis.
There
We
you
are
go.
live, so if we make a mistake, you're going to hear it.
It's always fun. Laughter is a good part of this show, I think, Scott.
Yeah, that's right. Today we're talking about ECBA certification FAQs, frequently asked questions. We've had a number of live sessions before, and people are really curious. They've got a lot of questions about ECBA, the Entry Certificate in Business Analysis. So we're going to talk about that today.
And as always, we're going to take your questions because we're live. So as we're talking, do you have questions? You can pop those in chat. If you're listening to us on our podcast afterwards, you can ask us a question at live@iiba.org. Well, let's get started. Let's talk about this ECBA. Now, I know that it has the word entry as its first word, but I propose that it is not just for business analysis professionals that are new to the profession. It certainly is helpful, but I also think that this can be a good certificate for people that are leading business analysis professionals. So if you are managing, if you're a team lead, if you're just leading other kinds of people that are solving problems, it can be good for you. But I'm going to throw you some curveballs here, Scott, because I also think that this certificate can be a great addition for someone who's working in consulting. Consultants are problem solvers, and whether or not you are working in business or technology or something like that, this can give you the language of how to solve problems effectively. Also, I think it can be a great certificate program if you're thinking about changing professions and moving into business analysis. So maybe you've been a developer or a project manager or an insurance adjuster, and you're thinking about, I'd like to expand my skill set. I think this ECBA certificate program is really great for all of those use cases.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of looking at it. It isn't just someone who is maybe coming out of university or college.
Mhm.
The one I want to zero in on is you might be a manager or director. To me, as a people manager, a manager of business analysts, I think that's an important one to recognize because in organizations, you can have people that are really good people leaders, and they come into a group, or you can have an expert that's grown up through the career and they become a people leader. I love professional managers, people that have that people skill and are brought in. And I think that's where this certificate can really help them out, understand what it is their people do, and give them that greater perspective so they can be a better people manager.
Also, it would be really helpful for those folks at performance review time. We've got, in addition to ECBA and learning the language of business analysis, it gives you a little bit of insight into the things that they do every day, and you can start to learn some of the proficiency levels. You can speak that language on their performance appraisals. So I think it really is what it says it is. It is an entry certificate in business analysis, and I think it is really foundational.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so,
So let's talk a little bit about why you would get it. In my opinion, I've coached a number of people along getting into this industry. And to me, the ECBA is that external acknowledgement that you have the knowledge and you can speak the language of business analysis. So when I've helped people through their first couple, getting towards that interview, your resume, having ECBA on there, really, in my opinion, helps get you filtered to the top of the pile. And really that helps you get that interview. So that certification, I think, is really that key piece to be able to demonstrate you're committed to this career, you understand the language, and you're well on your way, versus someone who's maybe going to struggle a little bit when they first start.
um, Gary Edwards, who was on in February, or I think February, he talked about using that certificate as a way that you can find your community, that you can officially say, here, I have achieved this milestone, and it says that you're serious about wanting to do that. From a recruiter perspective, and we've been talking with recruiters and coaches over the last couple of months, they say that ECBA or any certificate that you get, that is a keyword, and it needs to show up in your LinkedIn profile, in your resume, because those are things that they look for, and it can differentiate you from somebody who may not have that when all things are considered. So
Yep.
yeah, so I think it's it really can set you apart. So I know that when I talk with members or the broader community who may not be members, a lot of them ask, well, how do I go about getting this? And I know that we've pulled together a number of resources today to talk about that. One of the most important ones that we have, and by the way, we've got a web page that is dedicated to this, and it is packed full of information on the ECBA. But the most important resource that we have is called our handbook. And that handbook will tell you the prerequisites, the requirements, what you're going to have to study. It gives you kind of a syllabus. We call it a blueprint. I think it might have some sample questions, or at least those sample questions I think are on the ECBA page. So there's a lot of information there that you'll want to be familiar with as you're going through this process.
Yeah, and I'll just give a few bullets in terms of the high level process. So the first thing is you purchase an application. You do have to apply so that you can write the exam. In that, you need to submit a number of continuing education elements. So I think it's 21 hours
Mhm.
over the last 4 years. So items that are related to the knowledge areas in the business analysis body of knowledge. So that, combined with a couple of references, are what the application is. Once that's approved, you can then schedule and pay for your exam and then take that. Now, the exams are proctored exams, so they're online. And proctoring is a unique process if you've never gone through this. The person who's on the other end will be looking through your camera at your work setting where you're in to make sure there aren't any papers around. It really preserves the integrity of the exam. The proctor's job is to make sure that no one cheats. And it's not looking at it like, hey, you're going to cheat. It's more protecting the integrity of the whole process. So make sure you understand the proctoring process as well, because there are some details in there that you need to be aware of.
This certificate program, it is 100% online proctored, so it cannot be taken in a test center. I know that we've had Isabel on. She's from our certifications program, and to talk about online proctoring. In fact, I'll have to pull up that podcast at some point. She answers a whole lot of questions, and in fact, we include the guide so that you really can prepare. Because if you've done all the work, if you've done all the study, you've scheduled the exam, and you're ready to take it, and then, oh my gosh, your office is not clean, and you have to scramble around for a second location, it can be a little bit unnerving. One other thing I want to say about this ECBA, we have been, over the past couple of years, been working towards translating our materials. And the ECBA is not only in English, it is in Standard French, French Canadian, and Japanese, and we've got more languages coming soon. But not only is the exam in those languages, but the materials that you need to prepare, like the handbook, like I think the fee page, there's a variety of things that are also in those languages. So we do give you, we try to, make it accessible to anyone speaking those languages, and all of that is on the ECBA page. Just keep scrolling. There's tons of information on that page. The language information is at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've thrown a lot of information at you, and I see there's a couple questions coming in. So why don't we start digging into those questions?
Let's do that. All right. Here's the first one. So to return to business analysis work after a significant gap, I've been taking courses to bring my skills up to date. I previously earned certificates in business analysis and lean IT. Would ECBA certification be appropriate? Um, I think it could be. Again, it's a great foundational piece, and as I'm looking at someone who might have a significant gap in employment, the ECBA can do a couple of things. So it's not about the outcome. It's not about getting the certificate, but you and I have talked about what certification can do is it can build your confidence in your own knowledge of the subject matter, but it can also show you where you need to dig in a little bit deeper. And so I would say for this person, that may be really the outcome that you want to get, confidence and learning where you can build your knowledge.
Yeah, when I wrote my CBAP certification, the studying for that, I learned a few new things that I hadn't learned in the 10 years of experience I had. So yes, learning is definitely part of this experience.
Yeah. So the next question, do you feel it's necessary to use a learning provider, what we called an endorsed education provider or EEP, for the exam, or is self-learning just as successful?
That's a good question. Rosalind, if you can paste the link in to the learning schedule, we do have endorsed education providers that do provide prep training, but you don't need it. It really depends on your learning style. So if you're someone who loves to read, dig into things, studying on your own might be a great way to do that. We do have in IIBA chapters, some chapters run study groups. And the advantage of a study group is you get to meet with your peers and you get to talk about the content that you're working through. It can help you digest and retain that information more. The advantage of using an exam prep provider is you're just going to be fully immersed in this for a couple of days. A great way for you to ask all the questions you've got, hear examples of how things work in the real world. So it's not necessary, but I think really depends on your learning style and where you want to focus your time.
Yeah, I would say know your style. And if you've taken any other certifications before, you probably have an idea of what works best for you. So I'm working on preparing for the CBAP exam. And so what works best for me is a combination of reading, doing a little bit of online training, and then a lot of quizzing. I'm not necessarily somebody that goes to that. I don't like to discuss it. Also, I've been doing it for 24 years. So some of the scenarios I get, but that's my style, but that may not be everyone. So
Yep.
um and just to add, because you do need those 21 hours of education in the last 4 years, you can have a mix of how you get those hours. So you can do a little online training, you can do a little self-study, whether that's reading the Babak or the Knowledge Hub, by the way, and some study groups. So diversify, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Alrighty. Next question. I'm working as an IT ERP consultant in supply chain management for the past 13 years. How would ECBA or CBAP help me in moving past as a single ERP and working as a BA involving multiple ERPs? Hmm.
Yeah. So having 13 years of experience, if it's doing business analysis work, I would say CBAP is what you want to go for. So for larger context, ECBA is the entry certificate in business analysis. You don't have to have any experience to do the certification. The next level will be a CCBA and a CBAP. So the CBAP is the highest. The experience you need there, I believe, is 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, within the last 10 years, you need about 5 or 7 years of qualifying experience for the CPAP.
Yeah. So the question sounds like you want to move from a single ERP to working on multiple. To be honest, I don't think the certification is going to help you in that front. It's certainly going to shore up your business analysis skills, but really what you're doing is transitioning from one technology stack to another one. And there's a lot of parallels in terms of what you need to do to understand stakeholder needs, understand system needs. So that shift shouldn't be terribly difficult unless you're the type of BA that's very technically focused. So if you're very much down in the weeds and you rely on that skill set to be successful, that's where it could be challenging. But if you're a business analysis professional that sort of balances between business knowledge and technology knowledge, that shift should be relatively easy.
And the CBAP can also be helpful both internally and externally for you. If you are, for example, looking to switch organizations to do this work at a different organization, the CBAP, I think, helps to prepare you right, for the work that you're going to do on a larger scale, but it can also be that differentiator for you as you are searching for your next role. Internally, the CBAP can show your commitment to the work that you're doing. So, so they can see, oh, you've put in the time and effort, because believe me, there is time and effort involved in that CBAP. And so if you've been somewhere, if you've been at the same place for 13 years, this could really elevate you and get you a little more attention. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. Yeah.
So next question, I'm trying to build a career after a break. Will this certification help to get entry? We actually, I think that was one of our last uh, lives that we did, right? Was we talked about, will certification get you the job? And ultimately we said certification itself won't get you the job, but a certification, something like an ECBA or a CBAP or a CBDA, it can differentiate you when all things might be the same for the role that you're going in for. Having a certification can differentiate you because it can show your commitment, and that you are established in what you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. The next one's an interesting one. What's the prep time for a certificate, and can it be done in 2 weeks?
Oh my
So,
goodness.
if you were self-studying, I would say that's probably not realistic unless you're living, breathing this stuff. If you want to get it done that rapidly, certainly you want to go the route of an exam prep provider. That will immerse you into the content. Can you get it done in 2 weeks? You might be able to. Depends when those courses are available. So from the start of the course to getting exam done, yeah, you probably could. Just a matter of lining things up for you.
And some of the EEPs also have on their websites, they will give you an average preparation time before you can take the exam. So check that out. 2 weeks sounds aggressive, but I don't
Yeah.
know. Perhaps some of our EEPs can help you with that goal if that's what you need to do. Next question. So I'm seeing two trends today. I'm using my data analyst hat. So this next question is about someone that is switching gears in their career. And I think yes, I think most definitely. I gave the example of it could be great. I came out of insurance, and I often saw a lot of folks on our business side moving into business analyst roles. I think something like an ECBA would have not only introduced what business analysis is, it would have helped them to build confidence, that they could make this, because there's so many transferable skills. If you've worked in some other profession and you're moving into business analysis, there are so many transferable skills. And really what ECBA can do is help you see the skills that you already have, and then help fill in the gaps for anything new. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. I had a previous team member who joined my team from the operations side of the business. And in that process, I was coaching him along the things that he needed to know about business analysis. After I left that role, I encouraged him to get his ECBA, which he has done. So Alex is now ECBA certified. But that certainly helped him transition from the knowledge in the world he knew into working in that business analysis space and understanding those key concepts of, how do you talk to someone and get information from them in a meaningful way, in a non-biased way. So it really set him up well. So yeah, I think that's perfect.
yeah, I think it's a great one. This next question is also interesting. How relevant or valuable is the ECBA to jobs in the market? Is there a market demand for the ECBA? I don't know if I've seen data on specifically the ECBA, but I will tell you this. I have, over, I don't know how many, maybe the past 5 or 10 years, I study business analysis job postings. It's a weird thing, I know, because I'm interested in trends like titles and things like that. And that's probably going to be an upcoming topic, is to talk about the job titles we see out there. But I notice on a lot of them that they will, at the bottom where they're looking for qualifications, they will talk about having a business analysis certification. And though they are usually talking about CBAP, and they should really only be talking about CBAP if they are looking for senior or lead BAs, by the way. But I do see that. So I think, again, I think it is the differentiator. And also, as a job hunter, if you are looking for a position and you see that they are looking for folks, it would be nice to have a certificate. That's probably a place where you want to go because it says that they value the role of business analysis in their organizations and they are looking for others that have a background in it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my thought. Let's see. Um, Next up, trying to get into business analysis. Will this be enough to get an entry-level job in business analysis? I'm going to let you answer that because you've been a hiring manager.
Yeah, so this unto itself um, isn't enough. I'm just going to go out and say that. When I'm looking at someone to hire, I want to see that they've got some background and they're going to be an asset to my team. If you've got a resume that says I worked at McDonald's and I've got an ECBA, it might be a tough thing to draw an alignment there. But if you've done perhaps some volunteer work where you've done some business analysis, or you've got some other um, education that backs that up. So for example, a university student reached out to me in the last couple of months, getting ready to wrap up their school. Hey, I'm looking for a job. And they had an ECBA. And I looked at the resume. The ECBA was buried at the bottom of the resume. And I said, no, you need to put that at the top. Put it in your opening paragraph. So the certification unto itself will not guarantee you a job. It is something you mentioned earlier, a differentiator. So when I'm comparing two people and someone's got a certification, I'm more interested in that because I know they meet a minimum threshold of understanding business analysis.
Yeah. And I know we have talked about that certifications alone, um, won't help you get a job. So I think it's a reminder that of why you're doing it because there is a commitment to any of our certifications. You are going to be studying. This is not this is not like I'm just going to read a book over a weekend and take the exam on the following day. You really have to put time into learning the material and applying it. So the ECBA, I believe, is a multiple choice quiz, but as you move into the CCBA or the CBAP, it is not. It is scenario based and it is complex scenarios where you have to not just repeat back what you've read, but you actually then have to apply it. So there's real quality in this certification. And because we are getting a lot of questions today about career switching or starting a new profession, I want to talk about IIBA membership for just a minute. So when you are an IIBA member, you do get some discounts for the ECBA. And if Rosalind can hear me, if she will pop in the fee structure for that so you can see the difference. When you get that ECBA, you can use other resources and tools with that membership in order to get you the job. So for example, we've added chapter membership as part of your IIBA membership. You don't have to pay anything extra for it. And the benefit of that is we try to find the closest chapter to you. That's where you can build a network. And that can help you to find jobs, but it can also help you to discuss situations that might come up. You can find a mentor there. Many of them have mentorship programs. So, we've also got career resources. We've got a job board out there. We've got what we call a career action guide, which can help you to assess where you are and build a plan for how you can move up. And not only that, we also have a whole bunch of the kinds of resources that you would use in order to build that knowledge. So, come for the ECBA, stay for the community, I guess would be the tagline.
Yeah, and I encourage people to think about this too. The ECBA is the starting point or the springboard, if you will, for your career. And that's where you need to start building your network in the business analysis space. And chapters are a great way to do that. You could be comfortable and confident where you are in your workplace now, but building out a network might open up opportunities for you. So yes, definitely get involved in the community so ECBA is your starting point, but this is your career. So I encourage you to invest in them.
Yeah. All right. Let's take this next question. So this one is a little more specific. It's going to be like a word problem. So here we go. I have 9 years of BA experience with no domain expertise, and have been a QA analyst for 8 years. So not sure if I should try the CCBA or the ECBA. CBAP. So CBAP isn't possible because I guess just the age of the hours. So what would you recommend is really what the question is here.
Yeah, I would definitely say if you've got that experience and you've got the hours to qualify, the CCBA would be the better thing to go for, because it is a higher level certification and demonstrates that you not only understand the language of business analysis, but also you've been able to apply how that works in the real world.
We haven't talked about this, but those core certifications that we've been talking about, ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP, those are not graduated, meaning you don't have to have each one in order to get to the next level. So you can get an ECBA, and then when you qualify for CBAP, you can get the CBAP, or you can just get the CBAP if you have the hours, or the CCBA if you have the hours. So for those cores, there's no interconnectivity in between them.
That's a good
Um,
point.
I've been reading a lot about this exam lately. I'm wondering if I get an ECBA or go directly to CBAP. If I think it just depends on where you are. Now, again, I've been a business analyst for 24 years. I do not have a CBAP. In fact, I started my career before it existed. So, full disclosure, I'm getting it now because, really at this point for me, it's about, do I know what I think I know? And earlier in my career, I was really just trying to learn on the job, and it wasn't it because I knew I didn't have the kind of time to be able to give to it. So, if you think you've got the qualifications to go to CBAP, meaning the work experience in the 4 of the 6 knowledge areas, um, then go for CBAP. If you want to just test your knowledge, if you want to know what you think you know, ECBA could be it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm seeing the next two questions here are related. So
Hmm.
people have been looking on the website, following those links that Rosalind's put in there. So the two questions are, how do you get the 21 PDUs, the
Mhm.
professional development units? There's a number of different ways you can do that. The details are in the hand guide, but I'll give you the Coles notes here. It can be classroom or online courses. So you need 21 hours in the last 4 years. You can also use webinars. So they could be live or recorded webinars. So IIBA provides webinars. They have to cover off the content in the body of knowledge to qualify. You could use conference tracks. So if you go to a conference and there's a number of sessions in there, you can use those as hours. You can also go to chapter events. Those qualify. And then there is some self-directed learning you can do as well in terms of reading, reviewing. Now, with all of that said, there are limits on how much you can do. So you can't just say, I've got 21 hours of reading. So in the application process, you'll see that. But those are some ideas of the type of things that you can do to get those professional development units.
Tracking of those hours is on the honor system. If you're working either with a chapter or an EEP, they will probably provide you with some kind of certificate or evidence that you've participated in that training. But if you're doing self-study or you're watching recordings of webinar events or things like that, you'll want to track that. So you'll want to keep a spreadsheet with maybe date, time, topic, that kind of thing, because you'll enter that information onto our what we call the BA development log, which is essentially an online application process.
Yeah,
And then, of course, you're on your honor to make sure that the things that you say you've done because you could be audited. And so you would have to be able to provide the evidence of what you've done.
that's right. Now, Susan, you and I think, pride ourselves on we'll answer any question, but this next one, we can't actually answer. So the question is, what's the average pass percentile for the ECBA exam? That is not disclosed. That is kept confidential.
Yeah, that is, so we've officially hit the Stump the Speaker section of the live broadcast today. Yeah, it's Yeah, and it's not that we know and we're not telling you, like we it's just not disclosed, so even we don't know. Um, Alrighty, is is the Babcock Guide enough material for exam preparation? Um, yes, for ECBA, I think that would be a fair answer,
Yeah.
because that's what you're being tested on is what's in the Babcock Guide. You know, I mentioned CCBA and CBAP. They do scenario-based questions, which again is based on what you're learning in the Babcock Guide, but then it's also applying that knowledge. But ECBA is multiple choice. It is knowledge-based on the Babcock Guide. Okie doke. Next question. I have a Scrum Master certification and looking to get an ECBA. Ooh, that's a great combination. How should I put them on my resume? Ooh, and I'm going to add, don't forget to put it on your LinkedIn profile. Um, those are two great certifications to include on your LinkedIn profile. Include it with your name up in the headline. Again, and I'm assuming it'll be like a PSM or a CSM, maybe as your Scrum Master certification. That's a keyword. People would be looking for that in addition to ECBA. On your resume, I might put it with my name. Just put the letters after the name. Something else that we haven't talked about today are the badges. When you achieve your ECBA, you will get a digital badge from IIBA. You can apply that to the certification section of, or maybe it's called achievements, the achievements section of your LinkedIn profile. It just adds it right in. And the cool thing with that is those badges are not just a cool graphic, but it includes a link back to the evidence that you've achieved it. So another great way to tell people looking for you that you mean business, they can actually go back and they can verify that you have achieved it with the certifying body. So that's really great. You can also include those badges in things like you can create a post with it. You can add it in your signature line. You can print off a certificate. So there's a lot of things that you can do. So yes, do make sure you put that on a resume. I know we've had recruiters talking with us over the past couple of weeks at some of our webinars, and they always, always, always talk about making sure that is front and center for the purposes of applicant tracking systems. So
Yeah, and I'll just share a little hack for LinkedIn. Where your last name is, if you put your last name, comma, ECBA, then every time you're interacting on, uh, commenting on posts, that type of thing, your certification shows there because it's part of your name.
yeah, great reminder. All right, next question here. I want to go for the ECBA, but I'm not sure on how to prepare. There's so many training providers. I'm looking for self-study. Does IIBA have any preparation materials? Is it possible to pass just by reading the Babcock Guide? Reading the Babcock Guide, I think, is definitely a way to prepare. I might also add, if you're more into just reading, Knowledge Hub is also great. So the Babcock is, it's a PDF, or you can get a hard copy from our bookstore. The Knowledge Hub wraps around the Babcock Guide richer content. So it'll give you some examples of how those things are applied. So that also qualifies for your PDUs.
And
Trying to
just to
think of,
clarify, Knowledge Hub is something that's available to our members that
that's
you
right.
can log in, and it's an online resource of copious amounts of information.
Yeah, and actually we're moving all of our standards and guides into that digital format. So, but that's another piece of material that you can use to prepare. And let's see, I was thinking, is there anything else? If you go out to the ECBA certification page, at the bottom, there are some sample questions that you can use to give you a sense of the kinds of questions that you'll be asked on that exam. Make sure you take a look at the blueprint, because each of those knowledge areas are not necessarily treated the same within the exam. So there will be more questions from some of those areas than others. And so you'll want to make sure that you study those knowledge areas, pay a little more attention to those knowledge areas during your study.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Oh my gosh, we might have gotten all the questions.
Wow, I think that's a record for the number
I
of
know it's
questions
a
we
banner
got through
day.
in one session.
Well, we knew this was going to be a good topic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe we ended on that note then today.
Yeah, so just a reminder, if you are listening to this as a recording in one form or another, you can send us questions and we'll put those in our backlog for potential future sessions. And Susan, how can people do that?
Well, they can do that by emailing live@iiba.org. And we'll answer your questions either in a follow-up, or maybe we'll just send you an email back. Although I think we try to answer these live. So send them in. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, yeah. So thanks everyone for joining us. Hopefully that was a great session, helpful for you, giving you context around ECBA, why it could be important for you, some of the things you need to do. And if you do have questions, certainly ask them offline, and we'll either put them in future sessions or get back to you directly.
So we're wrapping things up today, but in 2 weeks, 10:30, we're going to be talking about missing requirements, question mark. Maybe sometimes maybe they're not always missing, but we're going to talk more about that because that can be a real source of project issues. So join us 2 weeks from today, 10:30. Thanks everybody for joining us.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and we'll leave another one right here for you to help you in your business analysis career. If you haven't subscribed to the IIBA YouTube channel yet, you can click over here and click on the bell icon to get notified every time we publish a brand new video.